views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Whether she's walking the red carpet or doing interviews, you'll find her with celebrities and all the latest news. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere, she's always on the go. So sit back, relax, and get ready, 'cause it's the Corey Taylor Talks Show.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Corey Taylor Talks, live from Las Vegas. I am extremely excited about my guest today. We have the one and only Alyssa Carson. I know you guys know her name, as she is a huge role model and inspiration to so many people. I've known about her for years, and now we finally get to have her on. So thank you so much, Alyssa, for being on. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the chat.
And so let's get right into it, because you are truly just incredible, and there are not a lot of people like you out there, and I think we need more. So you're helping inspire a lot of kids out there. But so from a very, very young age, you wanted to be an astronaut and actually go to Mars, which is kind of insane that you're actually following your dreams and you're succeeding, and you're, I'm sure, probably the youngest astronaut in training there is. So why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and how you actually developed this dream of yours?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I was little, I've always had a love for space and a passion of wanting to pursue a space career, possibly going to Mars and becoming an astronaut and all of that. So throughout the years, I've been just trying to do as much as I can, get involved, get ahead, almost like building a resume to eventually apply to the astronaut selection process. And, yeah, just trying to do different things and get involved early. So doing cool different, like, trainings, like water survival, microgravity flights, anything that can kind of relate to one day going to space.
Yeah, that is so cool. And, you know, I had to say, I always wanted to be an astronaut as a little kid. And then when I kind of grew up, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And I know a lot of little kids are like, oh, I want to go to space. I want to be an astronaut. And then they kind of get older and they forget and they go into different career paths. But you really stuck to it. And you're living the dream of so many people already. And you're really, really serious about it. What was, I know you said you were watching a show or something, and that was kind of what inspired you to go to Mars. And so what were you watching, and how did that actually develop?
Yeah, so, I mean, kind of looking back, I don't remember everything too exactly because of, like, how young and little I was.
Right.
But kind of my best guess as to what first inspired me is the cartoon The Backyardigans. So it used to be on Nickelodeon. Definitely, I mean, I used to watch the show all the time, and then I even had a poster in my bedroom that was like the episode of them going to Mars. And so after that, I just kind of started asking my dad questions about space and about Mars in general, and it definitely piqued my interest. But I definitely did like the same thing that most kids do, and like switching like between what they want to do. So like, you know, one day I'd want to be an astronaut, and the next day like I'd want to do something else. But the way I always thought about it was that I would be an astronaut, go to Mars, come back, and then do something else. For me, being an astronaut was always like first on my list.
Gotcha. That's really cool. And, you know, why Mars? I mean, you could obviously be an astronaut. There's lots of astronauts out there. What makes you so interested in Mars?
Yeah, well, when I first started like learning more about space, my dad kind of told me that we had been to the moon and all the stuff we had done, like going to the moon, and Mars was just kind of like the next step, I guess, and
Yeah.
It was a place that no one had ever been before, so just like the curiosity of it was like my main interest. So definitely as I've gotten older, I've learned a lot more of like the importance of going to Mars, and that has like really motivated me to continue pursuing my dream.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing, and it's pretty great. I really believe you're going to be probably the first person to be on Mars. And, you know, obviously there's so many importance to it. and I'm sure I can't even imagine all the things you want to do up there. But when you do actually eventually get to Mars, what's like the main thing you want to do? Like what's your kind of legacy you want to leave by going on Mars?
Yeah, definitely on the mission, I want to be like one of the scientists, one of like the researchers. And so on the mission, some of the main things that I would want to be a part of is like searching for signs of bacterial life in the water samples that are on Mars, testing the soil, learning more about that, learning more about the atmosphere, just like learning more to see like what we can do with Mars, real potential there, and everything that is there, and seeing what we can make of it.
Gotcha. So you kind of want to do more the science side and the more kind of important side of it, I guess, right?
Well, I mean, I've always been more interested in like the actual like experiment side rather than like being like the pilot of the mission or anything like that.
Gotcha. No, I think that's really cool. And, it's kind of interesting you said about bacteria life and everything. I have to ask, because we probably even asked this before, but do you, like, believe in aliens, or not kind of in the way we think, or what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I definitely think that the universe is just big, that it not be anything else. So I definitely believe that there is some kind of life somewhere else in the universe. That being said, I don't necessarily know how close they are or how far they are. Like, not necessarily like little green men walking on Mars, but I do think that Mars does have a potential for some sort of like little bacteria to be living in the water. We found so many signs of water on Mars, whether that's ice, water, steam. So there's just so much. That's one of the main reasons Mars is kind of our target area right now for research.
Right. Right, and it's also the closest planet to us, right? So it's easier for us to kind of get to, in theory.
Right, technologically, that's like the next place we are most able to go.
And I can't even imagine how much training goes into being an astronaut, and you've been working on it for years. What's kind of a typical day for you? What's your process when you're kind of learning to do this?
Okay, well, I mean, most of my time, or like most of my days, are pretty normal, just because being in school and being in college and getting my education is pretty much like my number one priority.
Right.
But all of, I guess, like the space stuff that I do, I try to do it like almost like on the side. So the program that I'm in, where I've done like most of the more realistic, I guess, trainings, has been through Project Possum, which is a private citizen science organization. And usually, like, I'll go for a week or whatever, go up to the Canadian Space Agency and work with a spacesuit for that week. So it just kind of depends on what's going on and, like, where it is.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because obviously NASA, like the headquarters in Florida and everything, are you still in Louisiana and you're just kind of traveling to different places, or are you living somewhere else closer so it's kind of easier to get to?
Well, I mean, right now I'm in Florida for school,
Gotcha.
but definitely all the different things I do is all over the place. So it just kind of, like, depends on, like, where the facility is.
Yeah. And you have traveled the world doing this, and I believe you're the only person to go to all three space camps, correct? And they're in different countries?
Yeah, so I went to the space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, and the one in Canada, as well as the one in Turkey.
That's so cool. And so, I mean, you have, I'm sure, amazing stories. And at the age of only 18, I can't even imagine how many more you'll have. But what's the coolest thing you've been able to do, or the coolest story you have from training to be an astronaut?
I mean, definitely, like, I've done some pretty cool, I guess, like, training experiences. Definitely one that was most memorable was when I did water survival training up in Connecticut. We did a lot of, like, very basic survival training, and then we also did, like, in spacesuits in the water, escaping from a capsule. We did kind of, like, basic survival, and then we did, like, space survival almost. And so that was really, really cool. But I really enjoyed, I guess, that one more particularly than some of the others, just because it applied a lot to a lot of things in everyday life. You know, we put us in this contract, like, this thing, and they'd flip us underwater, and we'd have to hold our breath, and we would be in a seatbelt and we'd have to like punch out a wall, undo our seatbelt, and pull ourselves out. And so even like that simple skill could be really useful. Let's say, your car goes in a body of water. So I felt like it was really relatable to everyday things, but also being able to also apply that to something space by suiting up in spacesuits and trying to like pull yourself in the life raft while wearing a spacesuit and those kinds of activities.
Yeah, that's cool. And you're right. It could not just go for space, but it could. I mean, accidents do happen, and you never know what can happen. So you have a really big survival skill. So that's true. And obviously, as I'm sure you know, you kind of started getting really big media attention when you were about 15 years old, correct?
Yeah, I guess around that time, a lot of stuff. I mean, I guess the first time I ever did something was probably when I was 12. I spoke on a panel in D.C. Talking about future missions to Mars with NASA and an astronaut and some other folks. And so I think at that point, a lot of people were just kind of wondering, like who is like this 12-year-old on a panel with like other people who work for NASA.
Right.
So I think that was almost like a starting point where people were just a little curious about like what I was doing.
Yeah, so I didn't even realize I was that little. So 12 years old. And so, I mean, you've been an inspiration to so many kids and especially girls since the age of 12, really, and I'm sure even before that. So what is it like having, I mean, it's got to be a lot of pressure, too, I'm sure. What is it like having that attention towards you and really being an inspiration for all those kids out there?
Well, I think that I've been really focused on like wanting the, I guess, platform, I guess you could say, or whatever, to be about kind of teaching more about space. I do think that there are a lot of misconceptions about space and like the mission to Mars in general. And so, especially when I was first getting into this, a lot of people didn't even know, we were planning on going to Mars when NASA kind of shut down or ended the space shuttle program. A lot of people were believing that NASA was closed and that there weren't astronauts anymore, and so many just false things. So I feel like in the beginning it was a lot of, I guess, just teaching about space and what's going on in the space program and the future hopes in the space program. And I definitely loved being able to speak with girls and other kids and hopefully inspiring them to follow their own dreams, whether it's getting them involved in a STEM or space career or really whatever they want to do. But it definitely takes like tens of thousands of people to send one astronaut to space. So it's all about inspiring tens of thousands of kids now, so they'll be going into the space program in the future.
That's right, and hopefully starting off young to get a big head start like you. And I obviously, like you said, there are a lot of false rumors and stuff going around, and I'm not going to pretend like I know a lot about the mission to Mars. So when it comes to that, I've heard that there's a big possibility that you won't be able to return. Is that still true, or are they figuring that out?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. So it just kind of depended, like, on the company or organization that you were looking into. So NASA's plans with going to Mars has always included a return trip. There have been like some other companies in different countries as well, all having ideas of going to Mars, and some of those included one-way trips. I think that right now they're all kind of leaning back towards all of them being, or any sort of idea of going to Mars, having a return trip. And I do think personally that, especially with the first missions, I think that eventually we'll work up to people living on Mars for, longer periods of time. But I definitely do think that the first missions, we're going to want to bring stuff back for more analysis, more research, just like bringing materials back and wanting to continue what we do on Mars.
Gotcha. So there's a good chance that everyone would probably be able to come back, and it's not just a one-way trip over there.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely been both ideas put out there by different companies, but right now a lot of them are leaning more towards the return trip.
And if it was where it was just a one-way and there was no way to come back, would you still continue to want to do that, or would you maybe want to just think about it at the time and just kind of see where you are in life, or are you just no matter what you want to go to Mars?
Yeah, I kind of always said that if the one-way trip was my only option, I mean, I would still want to go on the mission. But however, like if there was the option to come back, I wouldn't necessarily choose the one-way over coming back.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, obviously you're so young too. You're only 18, and I mean, who knows? You could be a mom, you could be in a serious relationship, whatever it would be. You wouldn't know until you're there. So it would just kind of depend, is what you're saying. But hopefully that wouldn't even be a problem. Just no matter what, there's a return trip back.
Right.
Well, I'm glad to hear, because I think you have so much to offer. And like I said, at only age 18, all of the things you've done so far is just truly incredible. And I want to bring up the fact, which is so cool, one of everyone's biggest dreams is to be in a Super Bowl commercial. And you actually just accomplished that. How is it shooting that and being a part of it?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. The whole, I guess, experience happened really, really fast, and so it was pretty crazy just like process it all and like kind of get involved in really fast and being able flying out, doing the commercial and everything. But it was definitely loads of fun. I remember hearing like the idea for the first time and just thinking of like what a cool idea it was, and I'm really glad that I was able to like be a part of it, and definitely everyone involved was so fun to work with. So it was pretty cool, and even just like watching the Super Bowl, I had like a bunch of friends in my apartment, and they were all like goofing off and like laughing with me and like gooing all over it. So it was definitely like fun to also share with all my friends.
Oh yeah, no, they had to be so proud of you. That's such a cool thing. And
Yeah, they definitely were.
yeah, and I mean there were so many awesome people involved with it, and including Bill Nye, which is awesome. Probably, I'm sure he was a big part of your reason for getting into science more and everything as well.
Yeah, I had actually met Bill Nye before, once before the Super Bowl commercial, and so it was really cool, like pulling up the old photo from way back when I had gone to meet him, and just kind of like remembering that moment.
Yeah, oh, that is cool. and and so we were talking about kind of what's the coolest thing you did, as becoming an astronaut and training and everything. But what about your coolest life experience? What's the most amazing thing you've done so far, or is there too many to pick from?
I mean, there are a good many. I've definitely, in general, just loved traveling and seeing so many parts of the world. I mean, so far I've been to 26 countries,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's just been absolutely amazing to see so many different parts of the world. And, growing up in school, I went to an international school, international immersion school. So I definitely have always enjoyed cultures and learning about that. And so I definitely have some really cool places I've been to that I've absolutely loved. Some of my favorites have definitely been Iceland, Greece, France, Turkey as well. It's just really crazy to be able to see these really pretty places and then also experiencing their own cultures as well.
Yeah, no, I that's amazing. In 26 countries. Oh my gosh. I've only been to two, and the second one I've barely been to. No, that's so cool. Yeah, I can't even imagine what's that like, and so and like you said, I'm sure there's so much more to come with that, and so many more countries and everything. But what's the best advice you've been given with doing this at such a young age? Has any astronauts have they given you any advice or anything, or what's the best piece of advice you've been given from someone?
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing that, or a moment that was super motivating, I guess, for me was when I was 9. I was meeting an astronaut, Sandra Magnus, and she was a shuttle astronaut, and I basically asked her, when she decided she wanted to be an astronaut or when she got into it, and she told me that she was around 9 or so, and it really just inspired me that it didn't really matter the age that I decided or kind of settled on this as my career or my future career, that if I continue to work hard, that definitely could become a reality. So just seeing someone successfully deciding at a young age, working hard, and then her being a successful astronaut was a huge motivation for me to keep going and a huge inspiration as well.
Oh yeah, that is cool. So you kind of can relate to somebody in that way, and they had great advice for you. That's cool. And so you probably thought about this and stuff. I'm just curious. Obviously Neil Armstrong's famous quote, "One small step for man." Uh, If you were the very first person to walk onto Mars, do you have a quote that you would pick, or something you would want to say when you step down?
I mean, I definitely have not, I guess, like, figured that part out yet. I'm definitely, like, way more of, I guess, like, a math and science person. So, I
Right.
mean, the thought of, like, coming out, like, with this quote that's going to, like, stand, thinking about, like, how his quote has just, like, stood through so much time and how, like, famous it is. It's just crazy to think that I can just, like, come up with something that's going to be that important. So maybe eventually I'll come up with something that I feel like is worthy enough of that.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see.
You should work with like a writing team to figure it out or something.
They can tell me what sounds nice.
Exactly. And do you think that's your ultimate goal? I really believe it's a huge possibility. Do you want to be the first person to walk on a Mars, or do you not really care about that part, just as long as you eventually get there?
I mean, I'm definitely more focused on just being able to contribute to the missions to Mars in general. I mean, of course, it would be super amazing to be on one of the first missions. However, I also like aware that it's not necessarily my choice, like who is
Right.
selected for each mission and that kind of thing. So I'm not necessarily like I only want to be on the first mission or anything like that. I'm definitely more just interested in contributing to the mission in general. And if it happens to be the first, then it happens that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I think you deserve to be one of the first, because you really help bring so much attention to this, and to the younger generations and any generation. You really brought a lot of attention to it, because you've gotten so many news stories and coverage on this, and I really think it's amazing, all that you really are doing. So you should be one of the very first people to be on there, and I think you deserve it more than anyone.
Thank you so much.
And so also, you talking about accomplishments, you also wrote a book, correct?
Yes, I have.
And so what was the writing process like that, doing that, and what is the book about even?
Yeah, so the book is called So You Want to Be an Astronaut, and kind of the reason why the idea and everything kind of came together was just because definitely speaking to so many kids, such like a big question has always been, how can I do the same thing, or how can I become an astronaut? And I definitely believe that anyone can do exactly what I have done so far. And so kind of on that same note is that wanting to become an astronaut is a very kind of different kind of job, because you can't just study to become an astronaut.
Right.
You have to actually decide what you want to study or what you want to do, whether that's science or becoming a pilot or medicine or whatever area you want to go into. You can really apply that to space in some way and still become an astronaut. And so I've always thought of the process of wanting to become an astronaut as almost like a personal journey you have to take yourself. There's no like step-by-step guideline, do this, 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 and then you'll become an astronaut. And so the book is really just kind of to help lead a little bit of that and like kind of help you figuring out what you want to do. It's also full of a lot of different resources that can help you start learning more about space and getting more involved. But it's definitely not meant to only be for if you want to become an astronaut. So although a lot of the topics relate back to something space related, and from my personal experiences with wanting to become an astronaut, it definitely, like the steps that it brings you through, can be applied to any sort of dream that you want to accomplish. So it's really meant to just kind of be almost like a guideline to help in following any of your dreams.
Gotcha. No, I think that's so cool, and what a great idea. And what age were you when you actually wrote that?
Well, so it's been more of like a recent kind of thing. So I guess it's kind of been like in the works and coming. I'm trying to even remember when it originally came out. But it's just been over the past, I guess, probably the past couple years.
Yeah.
Was when we like started getting the idea of actually putting together something and started like thinking of like what we'd want to do, and like I also was like talking to my dad and like about which things. Also going back like what I used and like different resources that I would look at when I was first learning about space. So we kind of just like talked through a bunch of stuff and then eventually got down to it. So it probably, I think, last year was like when it kind of got more solidified,
Right.
and like started being on Amazon. But yeah.
Oh yeah, it takes a while. It's not a short thing. It's a process. So no, I understand. It's kind of difficult to figure out exactly when. And so there's obviously all these deserted island questions, and if you were stuck on a deserted island, what would you bring? I wanted to be a little different and say if you were on a one-way trip to Mars and you could only bring certain things, what would you bring? So is it okay if I ask you these questions? Just to kind of get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like stuff that I would bring, I guess I would definitely. I'm trying to think because I was originally like thinking of like more, like sentimental things I would bring.
Right.
But I think if we're going like full survivor mode, there would be like different things that I would want. I guess like in terms of like sentimental things, I definitely want to bring like pictures of friends and family to Mars. Also my Right Stuff Award, which was the first, I guess, like award that I won the first time I went to space camp. So that was definitely like the beginning of so much, and so I think that'd be really cool. I've also thought about possibly bringing like a soccer ball to Mars. I played competitive soccer for like 10 years. I always thought it'd be cool to like kick a soccer ball on Mars since they'd had people bring like golf balls and stuff to the moon. So I always thought it'd be fun.
Right, and how about if you could only bring one movie to Mars, what would it be?
Bring one movie.
Hopefully they have like Netflix or something out there.
Yeah, Netflix would be great. I mean, I'm trying to think like what I wouldn't get tired of. Like I'm trying to, like I really like the Adam Sandler movie 50 First Dates. Like that would be a cute movie to watch a lot.
Yeah.
But then I'm also thinking like maybe a good just like Disney animation movie wouldn't be too bad to have either.
That's true. That's true. How about a TV show? Do you have like a favorite TV show you bring up?
Honestly, I'd probably bring Friends.
Yeah.
My dad just like absolutely loved Friends. So growing up, that was just always the show that we always had on. And so like we had it on every single night. So I'd probably bring Friends to just watch it all through for, I don't know, whatever time it would be.
Are you excited for the reunion they're doing?
Yeah, I was reading a lot about it, and I know they had like talks of like bringing it back and then not, and so many stuff. So I'm excited to see what all they decide to do with it.
Yeah, I know, it should be cool. And if you could only eat one thing on Mars, what would it be?
It would definitely be some good Louisiana food. Whether we figure out how to send some crawfish to space, or if we could do like some good gumbo or jambalaya or something, that would just make me happy. I was only that.
That's right, and you always have a little piece of home with you that way too.
Exactly.
And what about a beverage? What beverage would you bring?
I would probably do chocolate milk. To be honest,
I love chocolate milk. No, I think it's great.
That was my water.
Yeah, no, I love chocolate milk. I think that's an excellent answer. And how about if you could only bring one person with you to Mars, who would it be?
I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, like, it'd be nice to like have like my dad or like family. But also like if I could bring like, I don't know, like someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson or someone to like solve like all the problems while we're up there.
Yeah, a useful person. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And this obviously isn't pertaining to Mars, but if you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
I mean, definitely someone that I'm really wanting to meet, hopefully soon, is definitely like Elon Musk. So I would really love to just be able to like chat with him, just because he has so many incredible ideas, and I'm so impressed with his company and everything that he's done so far. So I think it'd be really cool to meet him.
Yeah, that'd be I'm really kind of surprised he honestly hasn't reached out to you already. So we should make that happen. Absolutely. That would be a perfect pair. And so now, before we go or anything, I want to talk about your website. And you have a lot of really amazing merchandise. And what kind of things do you have on your website, and what do you sell on there?
Yeah, so I have a Mars Generation wristband, just because I definitely believe that this generation is the generation that is going to be able to witness people step foot on Mars, or maybe be a part of the project, or maybe even going on the mission. Who knows? Yeah. But I definitely believe that this is the time for that. Also, there is, I guess, like a fun little T-shirt that says "My dream is out of this world." Literally, little play on words, and just kind of for anyone who has big dreams and big goals. And I think that we're coming to the point where space is becoming like more normal and more grounded. So hopefully seeing more people with space dreams.
That's right. No, that's awesome. And
then,
oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and then of course the book that we talked about on Amazon.
That's right. And I was gonna ask too. Your website is NASA Blueberry, correct?
Correct.
And where did you come up with that nickname?
So Blueberry is kind of like my call sign, which is like a nickname, but it was like it had to be like given to me. So I got Blueberry because the second time that I went to space camp, I was decently young and I wanted one of the blue flight suits that I saw everyone wearing since I went to become an astronaut. But I was too small to actually like fit in any of the actual ones that they had. So I had to buy, my dad ended up finding like this knockoff one that was just a really dark shade of blue and just not the right color. And so everyone told me that it made me look like a blueberry while wearing it. So throughout the day, they called me Blueberry, and then it kind of stuck. And then I even came back the next year and they came back with, "Hey, it's Blueberry." And so we just kind of settled that was just how it's going to be from now.
It worked out well, and now it's the thing you're known for, so it works out. And so NASA Blueberry is where people can get everything. And where can people follow you at and keep up to date with all you're doing?
Yeah, everything. Just about everything is under NASA Blueberry, whether that is the website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Everything's there, and about either cool things that different training opportunities or other cool experiences for either traveling or space related. All that can be found there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. It was truly an honor having you, and I think you're incredible, and I can't even imagine what more amazing things you're going to be doing. So thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And if you ever come out to Vegas for anything, we'd love to have you on in studio as well.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alyssa. Have a great day. We'll hopefully talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye. And that was Miss Alyssa Carson. What an amazing young lady, doing incredible things, really changing the world and inspiring so many people. So please go and support her in any way you can. And check out all of her things. Get her book, which sounds amazing. I know I'm going to get it immediately. And just support her. So thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, never give up. Always believe, and you'll achieve. Thank you, and God bless.